Let's discover the wild stories of lawlessness and notoriety as we delve into the fascinating world of the top 10 most dangerous bandidos ever. Who were these terrifying criminals and how did they pull off their horrible deeds? Are you prepared to learn more about these mysterious people whose names were written in blood? Number 10. Donald Eugene Chambers. Chambers and Bandidos members Jesse Fane Injun Deal and Crazy Ray Vincente kidnapped El Paso drug dealers Marley Leon Tarver and Preston Lee Ray Tarver on December 22, 1972, and drove them into the desert north of the city. After digging their own graves, the motorcyclists shot and burned the dealers. Earlier that day, the brothers sold the Bandidos baking soda as amphetamine. They were finally given life sentences. Number 9. Ronald Jerome. Ronald Jerome Ronnie Hodge, another former Marine, became the club's national president after Chambers' imprisonment. After being elected, Hodge changed his street name to Stepmother to match Chambers' mother. He was also involved in numerous terrible crimes, such as murders and drug dealing. Number 8. George Weggers. Another well-known member of the Bandidos MC is George Weggers. From 1998 until 2005, he presided over the organization as its worldwide head, El Presidente. Weggers was arrested for racketeering in 2005, and he later entered a guilty plea. When charges under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations RICO Act were filed against 26 members of the Bandidos Motorcycle Club, he pleaded guilty and served just 20 months in jail. Number 7. Jeff Pike. After George Weggers stepped down as president of the Bandidos MC International, another well-known club member, Jeff Pike, took over in that role. Weggers' membership in the Bandidos was canceled by Jeff Pike after he cooperated with police in an undercover investigation that led to criminal charges for 25 of the club's members. On January 6, 2016, authorities in Conroe, Texas arrested Jeff Pike along with the national vice president and sergeant-at-arms of the Bandidos MC. The jury convicted Pike and the others of racketeering conspiracy, murder conspiracy, assault, murder, drug trafficking, extortion, and weapon offenses. Number 6. James Lang. The individual previously served as the president of Bandidos International, also known as El Presidente. They were sentenced to jail due to the drug accusations. A mysterious person and their trusty sidekick disappear without a trace among the destruction, raising concerns about their motivations for making such a daring getaway. Do you know whom we are talking about? We will let you know that soon. But before that, let's discuss another dangerous member of the club. Number 5. Anthony Snotty Spencer. The first Bandidos chapter in Australia was founded in a split from the Birch Grove Comanchero chapter in November 1983, led by Spencer. Tensions between the Bandidos and the Comancheros increased during 1983 and 1984. Soon, a motorcycle war was launched on August 11, 1984, when the Bandidos assaulted 3 Comancheros at the Bull and Bush Hotel on August 9th. There were further shooting encounters between the two groups over the remainder of the month, but thankfully there were no fatalities. Number 4, and our mysterious loyalist, is none other than Colin Campbell. Colin Campbell is well known to the general public for his role in the Father's Day Massacre. Both his biological sibling Gregory Shadow Campbell and his adoptive sibling Mario Chopper Cianter perished. Cesar gets shot numerous times and must spend a considerable amount of time in the hospital healing. Upon his release from the hospital, he and Donna relocate to Perth. Number 3. Craig Johnston. A previous head of the group known as Bandidos International, this individual served as El Presidente until the year 1998. The conviction for the serious narcotics crime resulted in a hefty jail sentence. After him, George Weggers became the new leader. Number 2. Justin Forrester. Forrester's affiliation with the Bandidos Motorcycle Club spanned a decade, starting in 2006 and ending with his arrest in January 2016. According to his testimony, at the time of his arrest, he held the position of Sergeant-at-Arms in the national chapter and was responsible for carrying out orders from Portillo and Pike. He provided valuable first-hand testimony regarding the various orders issued for racketeering crimes, which encompassed activities such as extortion, intimidation, beatings, and murder. In the top spot, we have Glenn Merritt. Bellingham, Washington native Glenn Merritt, 65, was given his sentence on Friday by U.S. District Judge John C. Colganor. Last year, when federal agents conducted a raid on the Bellingham-based gang, he was one of 32 people charged in Washington, Montana, and South Dakota. Members were charged with drug and firearm offenses as well as murder plots, witness tampering, and violent crimes in support of racketeering. George Weggers, the group's worldwide president, pleaded guilty to conspiracy to participate in racketeering and was sentenced to 20 months in jail. Of the 18 Bandidos defendants who have pleaded guilty, Merritt got the harshest punishment. He was accused of selling firearms and illegal drugs to an undercover informant on 4 separate occasions. 52 firearms were found in his residence by federal officials. He was also accused of beating a club prospect who had complained about him and trafficking stolen cars and motorcycle parts. Who among them did you find the most dangerous and daring? Do let us know in the comments below.
The most violent Hells Angels of all time. The Hells Angels, a notorious motorcycle club with a global presence, has become synonymous with a reputation for violence, lawlessness, and criminal activities. Throughout its history, the Hells Angels have been involved in numerous confrontations, clashes, and incidents that have cemented their notoriety. Within the ranks of this infamous club, there have emerged individuals who have stood out as the epitome of violence, commanding fear and respect within their own brotherhood and beyond. One person's name stands out among the others, representing great strength and a merciless nature: Frankie the Barger. We will discuss that later in the video, so stick around till the end. Sonny Barger. No list of the most violent Hells Angels would be complete without mentioning Sonny Barger, the iconic figurehead and founding member of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. Barger, known for his rugged demeanor and fearless approach, was a key figure in the violent clashes between rival biker gangs during the 1960s and 1970s. His involvement in the infamous Hollister Riot of 1947, along with his later run-ins with the law, solidified his reputation as a fierce and relentless enforcer. Ralph "Sonny" Barger Jr. The son of Sonny Barger, Ralph "Sonny" Barger Jr. inherited his father's propensity for violence. Active during the late 1960s and 1970s, Sonny Jr. was known for his aggressive and brutal tactics. He was involved in several notorious incidents, including the infamous Ultimate Speedway Free Festival in 1969, where violence erupted, leading to the death of a concertgoer. Sonny Jr.'s ferociousness and his willingness to resort to extreme measures to protect the club's interests further solidified his position among the most violent Hells Angels. Maurice Momboucher. Moving beyond the United States, Maurice Momboucher, a Canadian Hells Angels member, is widely regarded as one of the most violent figures in the club's history. Butcher gained notoriety during the Quebec Biker War of the 1990s, a violent turf war between the Hells Angels and rival motorcycle gangs. He was known for his ruthless tactics, orchestrating bombings, arson attacks, and assassinations. Butcher's reign of terror eventually came to an end when he was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Mark "Papa" Guardado. Mark "Papa" Guardado, the former president of the San Francisco chapter of the Hells Angels, was a charismatic and fearsome figure within the club. Guardado's violent streak led him to be involved in numerous biker conflicts during the early 2000s. His reign as president was marked by an escalation of violence and power struggles within the San Francisco chapter. Tragically, Guardado's life was cut short in 2008 when he was gunned down in a shooting that remains unsolved to this day. Walter "Wally" Odell. Walter "Wally" Odell, a member of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club in California, was notorious for his involvement in drug trafficking, extortion, and acts of extreme violence. Odell was known for his explosive temper and willingness to engage in physical confrontations. His most infamous act of violence occurred in 2002 when he assaulted a member of a rival gang with a baseball bat during the Lachlan River Run riot, leading to the death of 3 individuals. Odell was eventually convicted of multiple charges and sentenced to life in prison. Harry "Taco" Bauman. Harry "Taco" Bauman was the former president of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club in the United States, serving from 1989 to 1997. Known for his violent temperament and criminal activities, Bauman was heavily involved in drug trafficking, extortion, and organized crime. Under his leadership, the Hells Angels became embroiled in a series of violent conflicts with rival gangs, resulting in numerous casualties. Bauman's reign as president came to an end when he was arrested in 1997 on federal racketeering charges, ultimately leading to his conviction and life imprisonment. George Christie. George Christie was a prominent member of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, serving as the president of the Ventura chapter in California for over 30 years. While not as notorious for acts of violence as some other members on this list, Christie gained a reputation for his involvement in criminal enterprises and his ability to navigate the underworld. He was known for his strategic maneuvers and willingness to use intimidation tactics to protect the interests of the club. Christie's influence extended beyond the realm of violence, as he became a controversial figure through his subsequent books and media appearances. Maurice Mongo Lussier. Maurice Mongo Lussier, a former member of the Hells Angels in Quebec, Canada, is remembered for his involvement in one of the most shocking acts of violence associated with the club. In 2000, during the Quebec Biker War, Lussier was part of a group that orchestrated the killing of 2 prison guards, a crime that shocked the nation. Lussier was subsequently convicted and sentenced to life in prison, further contributing to the notorious legacy of violence surrounding the Hells Angels. Peter Big Pete James. Peter Big Pete James, a former national president of the Hells Angels in Australia, was a significant figure within the club's Australian chapters. James was involved in a series of violent conflicts, particularly during the infamous Milpera massacre in 1984. This shootout between the Hells Angels and rival motorcycle gang, the Comancheros, resulted in the deaths of 7 individuals, including 4 Comancheros and 2 innocent bystanders. James himself was seriously injured in the incident but survived. The Milpera massacre stands as one of the most violent and notorious events in the history of biker gang conflicts in Australia. Jerry Animal Oliver. Jerry Animal Oliver, a former sergeant-at-arms for the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club in California, was widely feared for his violent and unpredictable nature. Oliver was known to carry out acts of brutality with little provocation and had a reputation for using his physical strength to intimidate and attack adversaries. His involvement in various criminal activities and violent incidents contributed to the overall image of the Hells Angels as a dangerous and formidable organization. David Davidwell. David Davidwell, also known as Yankee, was a prominent figure in the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club in Canada. He served as the president of the Hells Angels Ontario chapter and was known for his involvement in organized crime, drug trafficking, and acts of violence. Atwell was a central figure during the Quebec Biker War and was involved in several violent clashes with rival gangs. His criminal activities eventually led to his arrest and imprisonment. Frankie the Bomb Baksha. Frankie the Bomb Baksha, a former member of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club in New York, gained notoriety for his involvement in bombings and other acts of violence. Baksha was a skilled bomb maker and was often tasked with carrying out attacks against rival gangs and individuals who posed a threat to the Hells Angels' interests. His expertise in explosives made him a feared and dangerous member within the organization. The Hells Angels have long held a reputation for violence, and within their ranks, certain individuals have elevated this reputation to legendary proportions. Sonny Barger, Ralph Sonny Barger Jr., Morris Mom Butcher, Mark Papa Guardado, and Walter Wally Odell represent a selection of the most violent Hells Angels of all time. These individuals, through their ruthless tactics, acts of terror, and involvement in criminal activities, have left an indelible mark on the history of the Hells Angels. However, it is important to note that these individuals do not define the entire club, as there are many members who have chosen a different path and have distanced themselves from the violent elements. So guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. For more interesting content, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more awesome content. Have a nice day, and I will see you in the next video.
Let's step inside the exciting world of John Javier Portillo, the Bandidos' most dreaded legend and ultimate mystery. He cast a palpable shadow across the history of crime, radiating menace and cunning beyond comparison. Get ready for an exciting adventure as you go further and deeper into his perilous dominion, where peril lurks around every corner, and your adrenaline soars at the prospect of the unknown. What terrible things happened to him that made him the most dreaded member of the Bandidos? Let's check it out. Bandidos Outlaw Motorcycle Organization National Vice President John Javier Portillo, who is 59 years old, was ordered by a federal judge to 2 straight life terms and 20 years in federal jail for racketeering and drug dealing. United States Attorney John F. Bash, Western District of Texas, Drug Enforcement Administration DEA Special Agent in Charge Will Gaspy, Houston Division, Federal Bureau of Investigation FBI Special Agent in Charge Christopher Combs, San Antonio Division, Texas Department of Public Safety Director Stephen McCraw, Austin Police Chief Brian Manley, San Antonio Police Chief William McManus, and Alacosta County Sheriff David A. Soward made the announcement today. In addition to the jail sentences, senior U.S. District Judge David A. Ezra ordered that Portillo give the government his motorbike, 3 guns, and $17,827.20 that were found during a search of his home in 2016. What dark truths lurked under the intimidating mask of John Javier Portillo? This case shows that the Department of Justice has the tools to peel away a layer of legal action to find and punish illegal behavior underneath. On May 17, 2018, after a nearly 3-month trial, a jury convicted Portillo and National Bandidos President Jeffrey Fay Pike, age 63, of Count 1 conspiracy to violate the Racketeering Influence Corruption Organization Statute, Count 3 murder in aid of racketeering, Count 4 conspiracy to commit murder in aid of racketeering, Count 5 1 count of conspiracy to commit assault with a dangerous weapon in aid. Portillo was also found guilty of Count 2 murder in aid of racketeering, Count 8 firing a gun during a violent crime, Count 10 conspiracy to possess with the intent to distribute more than 500 grams of methamphetamine and cocaine, Count 11 possession with the intent to distribute cocaine, and Count 13 being a felon in possession of a gun. Jurors found Pike and Portillo guilty of conspiring to run a criminal organization through racketeering acts like telling, authorizing, approving, and letting members of the Bandidos kill, try to kill, rob, attack, intimidate, extort, and sell drugs. During the hearing, evidence showed that Pike and Portillo told other Bandido members to kill Anthony Benesch in 2006. Benesch was trying to start a chapter of the Hells Angels in Texas in Austin at the time. Members of the Bandidos told Benesch to stop what he was doing and stop recruiting, but Benesch did not listen. Then, on March 18, 2006, several Bandido members killed Benesch outside of an Austin restaurant to protect the business's power, image, and area. Jurors also decided that Portillo and others killed Robert Lara in Anacostia County in January 2002 as payback for the death of Javier Negrete, who was a member of the Bandidos. Negrete was killed outside a San Antonio bar in October 2001. At the time, he was a member of the same Bandidos group as Portillo. Jurors also decided that Pike, Portillo, and others plotted to kill and hurt members of the Cossack outlaw motorcycle organization and people who were close to them. Testimony showed that Portillo said the Bandidos and Cossacks were at war with each other, with Pike's agreement. As part of this war, the Bandidos did a number of dangerous things around Texas, such as in Fort Worth, Gordon, Odessa, Port Arnasis, Crystal City, and other places. Testimony also showed that Portillo and other members of the Bandidos were trafficking methamphetamine and cocaine. They also had an agreement with the Texas Mexican Mafia that said Bandidos members didn't have to pay the 10% dime to the Texas Mexican Mafia in exchange for permission to traffic drugs. Bandidos National Vice President Javier Portillo's sentencing is one more step towards the end of a thorough investigation by the DEA, FBI, and our law enforcement partners into the Bandidos outlaw motorcycle gang's leadership structure and illegal activities, said Will Gaspy, Special Agent in charge of the Drug Enforcement Administration's Houston Division. This investigation shows how much law enforcement wants to make sure communities across Texas are safe and stop gang members who sell drugs and do other illegal things from setting up shop in our neighborhoods. Christopher Combs, the FBI's special agent in charge, said, "Today's sentence is a result of the FBI's and all of our law enforcement partners' great work together. This attempt shows how serious we are about keeping our neighborhoods safe from gang bloodshed and illegal behavior. It also makes it clear that we won't stop looking for and prosecuting the leaders and members of these dangerous criminal organizations. Gang violence is a threat to the safety and security of Texas communities," DPS Director Stephen McCraw said. These are hard cases, but thanks to the hard work of law enforcement and prosecutors working together, these criminals can't hurt our communities anymore. As the dust settles on the tumultuous story of John Javier Portillo, his memory lives on as a chilling warning of how far people will go to gain power and fear. His time as the most feared Bandidos member is written into the books of crime history as a lesson. What are your views on him? Do share your opinions in the comments below. What comes to your mind when I say woman? Maybe a sweet, beautiful, or humble figure. But in today's video, we're going to introduce you to such women who have been the most dangerous ones in the history of the Hells Angels. Let's dig deeper and find out what horrifying crimes have they committed. Starting off our countdown, number 7 on the list is Rosie Ramirez. Ramirez's tale exemplifies her bravado and unrestrained violence. Her fiery demeanor and courage were well known in the rough world of outlaw motorcycle organizations originating in Arizona. Being reared in a rough environment, Rosie's fearlessness distinguished her as one of the most formidable individuals in Hells Angels history. She was also recognized early on by her unwavering spirit and determination to give in. She found comfort on a bike's back, capturing the tensions of the Hells Angels by expressing an untamed, raw energy. Rosie's journey with the club was everything but simple. She had to overcome the largely male environment and establish her value by pushing herself forward with perseverance and determination. Rival gang members frequently felt the full brunt of Rosie's anger, and her bold riding style and biking prowess made her a force to be reckoned with, leaving law enforcement in her wake. Her bold maneuver changed the course of the battle and helped the Hells Angels surprise everyone by winning. However, Rosie's aggressive temperament and volatile temper were a double-edged blade that both gained her admiration and fear. She became one of the most sought-after girls as a result of numerous interactions caused by enforcement. Rosie was confronted by Angels members, but she remained unrepentant and unconvinced, refusing to submit to the authorities. The next one on the list is Lena "Lethal" Lawson. Lena, who is from the harsh Alaskan environments, became a well-known character in the outlaw biker scene thanks to her abilities, accuracy, and lethal acts. Lena, who joined the Hells Angels at a young age, had a natural aptitude for mechanical engineering and was superior to her colleagues in her abilities to disassemble and rebuild engines. However, her mechanical prowess gained her recognition and made her a well-known character within the club. Beyond her technical prowess, she showed how effective she was in fending off threats. When the situation called for it, Lena used her measured and exact approach to conflicts rather than seeking out needless turmoil or violence. As a result, she became an unstoppable force. Despite her amazing powers, Lena's ability to avoid ambushes and turn the tables on other gangs proved her skill and left her enemies defeated. Lena's life wasn't without controversy. Because of her deadly effectiveness, she became a top target for law authorities, which resulted in ongoing surveillance and investigation. Lena was evasive though, so she could always keep one step ahead of the law. Lena "Lethal" Lawson was an invaluable member of the Hells Angels because she operated on the edge of morality, making it difficult for law enforcement to apprehend her. Moving on to number 5 on the list is Daisy Donovan. Donovan was a woman who epitomizes the virtue of courage. Daisy was no stranger to risk, and she had a thrill-seeking mentality that drove her to seek out difficulties. She eventually joined the Hells Angels as a result of this, a group renowned for its love of freedom and contempt for danger. Daisy joined the Hells Angels after performing a risky deed when a rival gang stole a valuable motorcycle. Daisy took it upon herself to do it for the club. Her bold deed earned her the moniker Death Wish and cemented her standing. Daisy's reputation for daring deeds among the Hells Angels increased as she became one of the group. She was well known for her rash courage. She was a significant asset to the club, gladly taking on responsibilities that others thought were too risky, being composed under pressure and not backing down from any challenge. Daisy, however, frequently found herself at odds with the law because of her daring spirit. Despite having several run-ins with the law, Daisy avoided being caught in the act and relied on her wits and fast thinking to get herself out time and time again. One of Daisy's most famous feats was a high-speed pursuit by law enforcement on the motorcycle she was riding. Daisy expertly avoided capture by pulling off a series of spectacular maneuvers that left the pursuing officers in her trail. Stepping on to number 4 is Firebrand Fiona. Growing up in Chicago, Fiona Firebrand Fitzpatrick, a female Hells Angels 7, stood out among the group as a woman of ferocious passion and unwavering drive. Her rebellious nature and love of motorcycles led her to the Hells Angels, where she soon established herself. She was a natural maverick who refused to accept the current quo. Fiona gained the moniker Firebrand for her ferocious rants and appeals for disobedience against social conventions. She also became the Hells Angels spokesperson and rallying cry, encouraging her fellow club members with her passionate words. Her influence extended beyond only her remarks. She was a lady of action when she was alone herself and frequently took the lead in conflicts with opposing gangs. Significant misdeeds happened during a citywide action against motorbike gangs. She planned rallies against the crackdown against the Hells Angels because she would not be intimidated. However, the intensity and defiance of these demonstrations sent a strong message to the government that the Hells Angels would not back down. Fiona was frequently targeted by law enforcement due to her rebellious character. Despite being in their sights, she persisted in her mission. Coming in at number 3 is Tara Tornado Thompson. Tornado Thompson was distinctive. The Hells Angels welcomed Tara's temperamental disposition and her inability to back down from a confrontation, which drove her to join the group. She rapidly made friends with other members of the club thanks to the organization's acceptance of her stormy personality. Tara had a forceful presence due to her direct demeanor and knack for inspiring her fellow Angels. Because of her erratic behavior, Tara is known as the Tornado, a suitable illustration of the chaos whirlwind she frequently brought on with her. She was unwavering in her commitment during a tense argument with a rival gang in one of her most illustrious feats. In this battle, Tara rallied the Hells Angels and led a furious assault on the rival squad, earning her club a resounding victory. Due to her aggressive personality, Tara was frequently targeted by law enforcement. She was constantly being watched. Tara, though, always managed to remain one step ahead. She used her erratic personality to scatter and confuse her pursuers in the Hells Angels world. Thompson was a powerhouse who insisted on respect for her combative nature. She quickly became one of the most revered and feared people in the world of outlaw motorcycles due to her leadership skills and capacity to unite her fellow Angels. Moving on to number 2 in the list is Nightmare Nina. Nicholson Nightmare Nina Nicholson stood out as a person who instilled a mixture of respect and fear in the dark corners of New Orleans. Nina joined the Hells Angels because of her tough background, which sharpened her survival instincts and strategic thinking skills. She also joined because of her love of motorcycles, where she excelled right away. Nina's strategic insight developed into a useful resource for the club, enabling them to give them an advantage in conflicts. Her merciless strategies with competing gangs had her enemies cower in fear, garnering her the moniker Nightmare. She was a formidable opponent with the capacity to make every confrontation a nightmare. One of Nina's most illustrious feats involved a difficult turf war with a rival gang. Through her tactical foresight and execution, she outwitted the opposition group and secured a crucial victory for the Hells Angels. This accomplishment further cemented her reputation as a tactical genius within the outlaw motorcycle community. Nina's brutal methods frequently made her a target for the police. She continued to be closely watched by several agencies, and everything she did was carefully observed. Despite the strain, Nina consistently avoided getting caught by the law. Nina Nightmare Nicholson was more than just a member of the Hells Angels. She was a tactical expert who inspired both fear and respect in equal measure. In the top spot comes Brenda Breakneck Brooks. Born and reared in warm California, Brenda Breakneck Brooks was a legendary figure known for her unparalleled speed and agility on a motorbike. Brenda had a natural interest for motorcycles from a young age. Brenda joined the Hells Angels because of her outstanding skill with speed and accuracy on a bike. She rapidly distinguished herself as a star member of the group. She used her outstanding skills to outrun and outmaneuver her opponents in high-speed encounters with rival gangs. Her speed and agility on a motorbike were unrivaled. Because of her remarkable speed, she was given the moniker Breakneck, which is a testament to her mastery of riding at breakneck speeds. Let's step into the shadows of the feared Mongols biker club, where an enigmatic leader holds all the cards and calls all the shots. Shrouded in mystery, this figure holds sway with an iron fist and strikes fear into the hearts of all. Who is the cunning puppeteer pulling the strings of the Brotherhood's might? Scott Jr Erikson is the most fearsome Mongol leader ever. In the year 1980, Scott Jr Erikson became a member of the Mongol motorcycle gang. He served as president of the National Club 4 times and saw it expand from a few hundred members in California to thousands of members all over the world. Jr prioritized the Mongols over everything else, demonstrating that the Mongols are more than simply a motorcycle club, they are a brotherhood, which is a large part of the reason the club has become as well known as it is today, a brotherhood for which he had been willing to lay down his life for 30 years. A friend and Jr went fishing at the lake in 1974 when he was very young. A large man with a lengthy beard and hair rode up on a motorcycle and parked it near the lake while they were there. As they watched the rider dismount and light up, they saw that guy was wearing a vest with a Mongols motorcycle club patch. Even though the man was only there for about 10 minutes, the impression he left on 14-year-old Jr, who was there to see it, remained with him forever. Do you know what he did next with his thought? He began daydreaming about owning a Harley-Davidson motorcycle after picking up Easy Rider magazine and reading them religiously. At the age of 18 in 1978, Jr spent $3,400 on a Harley-Davidson Super Glide. Not long after arriving in California, he began to hear reports of a bloody conflict between 2 of the largest motorcycle clubs, the Hells Angels and the Mongols, over the state's territory. Jr began interacting with other club members as time went on. Jr joined the Mongols that day and began participating in weekend riots with them. After a few months, he was invited to the clubhouse of the Mongols' San Diego chapter, where he was formally introduced to the chapter's members and president. Jr.'s personality and demeanor changed for the worse the day he joined the gang. His brothers had given him a Smith & Wesson .38 Special as an initiation present, and he had grown his hair and beard long. Jr had no fear and thought that he was invincible when he first joined the Mongol Motorcycle Club. But he quickly learned otherwise when 3 of his brothers were killed in the first year. 2 years later, Jr and his brothers got into a fight at a pub with a member of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, and Jr wound up shooting and killing the Hells Angel. Local publications blamed the Mongols Motorcycle Club for the shooting, and the police went on a manhunt for the gang's members when the incident gained widespread media attention. After hearing that 3 of his brothers had been arrested and charged with first-degree murder and that the police had issued a warrant for his arrest, Jr hastily got out of town, transferred to a Mongol chapter in Tulsa, changed his name, and hid in Oklahoma for 6 months with the help of his Mongol brothers. Jr.'s arrest didn't come long after. In 1986, at the age of 26, Jr was paroled out of prison. He was happy to be out of prison, but he was unhappy with the conditions of his parole, which stated that he was not to have any contact with any member of the Mongols Motorcycle Club for 1 year, and if he did, he would be sent back to prison. Unwilling to turn around to comply with his parole, Jr got a lawful job, but the day he was released, he reconnected with his brothers and almost immediately became the vice president of the Mongols San Diego chapter. A year later, he was asked to become the Mongols' national president, making him the youngest national president in the club's history. As time went on, Jr became increasingly devoted to the Mongols, to the detriment of nearly all of his other connections. In 1998, Jr and one of his club brothers were out at a pub when they were attacked by a man wielding a knife. To defend themselves, Jr smashed a glass over the assailant's head, knocking him out. Jr and his brother thought the incident was over, so they rode off on their motorcycles. However, the man decided to press charges, and a warrant was issued for Jr.'s arrest a few days later. When he was taken into custody, Jr tried to explain that he had acted in self-defense, but the police officers didn't seem to care. After a favorable judgment was overturned and Jr.'s return to jail was ordered, the parole officer found that he had breached his parole. Jr became a folk hero in the Golden State because he tirelessly fought for the rights of Mongols everywhere. What are your views on him and his passion for his motorcycle club? Do let us know your opinions in the comments below. A sinister power cloaked in leather and spurred by rebellion emerged from the shadows of the 20th century. The name Hell's Angels alone was enough to strike fear into the hearts of many. Their mysterious leader, Sonny Barger, seemed to live on the outside of society, constantly testing the limits of what was considered acceptable. They made their mark in history with every turn of their turbulent journey, leaving a wake of destruction and unrelenting defiance in their wake. Let's check out what specific actions or decisions did this Hells Angels boss take that made him the most brutal of all the gang leaders. Born in Modesto, California on October 8, 1938, Sonny Barger is a man who defied all odds to become one of the most notorious and celebrated figures in the world of outlaw biker gangs. His mother abandoned him and his father to raise him after 4 months when she runs off with a Trailways bus driver. His father is a day laborer who spends his nights and most of his money at waterfront bars, often bringing home women and children who have been abused. In 1956, Barger co-founded his first motorbike club, the Oakland Panthers, with a group of fellow military veterans, but things changed for him as he found his true calling in life. Having joined the Army with a forged birth certificate and being kicked out 14 months later when his deception was discovered back home, Barger struggled to find his place in the world. Hurry up and Barge, one of the most infamous and feared members, Barger eventually becomes president of the Oakland Hells Angels and travels throughout the state of California negotiating territory and alliances with other Hells Angels chapters. However, with great power comes great corruption, and by 1960, the Oakland Hells Angels have established a massive narcotics network, becoming one of the most dangerous drug-dealing organizations in the country. In the early 1960s, the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club grew in size and notoriety, becoming one of the most feared outlaw biker gangs in the United States. Along with their increasing notoriety comes an increasing number of run-ins with the law and a growing number of slayings, making Barger a symbol of everything that is wrong with the criminal underworld. Despite Sonny Barger's presence at the Altamont concert and the fact that he was not involved in the stabbing, he was not charged in connection with the incident. The event and the Hells Angels' involvement cast a dark shadow over the club's contribution to the concert and the lives of those who attended. Meredith Hunter, 18, was killed when she was stabbed by a Hells Angel after aiming a firearm at the stage. But this was not the end of his brutality. There was one more person who was killed by Barger. Do you know who we're talking about? We will let you know soon, but before that, in the 1970s, there were some other challenges waiting for him. Barger faced more legal trouble and was eventually sentenced to 4 years in prison for possession of 37 grams of heroin and possession of an illegal firearm. This period marks a turning point for the Hells Angels, as the federal government begins to take a more aggressive stance against outlaw biker gangs, specifically targeting the Hells Angels. Although the legacy stopped him from living life to the fullest, he continues to ride the open road, eventually expressing a preference for high-powered Hondas and BMWs over the Angels' traditional Harley choppers. Through it all, Sonny Barger never loses his edge. He remains a rebel to the end, defying authority and pushing the limits of what is possible. Later in 1972, Barger, along with Hells Angels members Sergey Walton, Donald Dwayne, Whitey Smith, and Oakland Gary Popkin, was accused of murdering Servio Winston Aguero on May 21st. Aguero was a drug dealer from McAllen, Texas, who had traveled to Oakland with a shipment of narcotics for sale. Richard Ivaldi, a prosecution witness, said that he saw Barger shoot and kill Aguero in the bedroom of an absent acquaintance's house, and that Barger then ordered the others to set fire to the building. After a 7-week trial in which Ivaldi's veracity was called into question, Barger and his 3 co-defendants were found not guilty on December 29, 1972. Sharon Gruhike, Barger's girlfriend, said she was in bed with him at the time of the murder, and thus had no reason to suspect him. So these were some of the ruthless life decisions taken by the founder Sonny Barger. What motivated him to do that is maybe his will to establish his dominance and fear over others. Introducing the epitome of fear, the most feared man in the history of Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, also known as the HA, the Red and White and the 81 have carved their name into the annals of infamy. With 6,000 members in 467 chapters across 59 countries, one name reverberates with a resonance all its own: Frank Armin Hanebuth. Brace yourselves to know more about him. In Garbsen-Osterwald, Germany, Frank was born into a middle-class family. From an ordinary life, he became the leader of the Hells Angels in Europe. But how did it all start? Fate took him from carpentry to Hanover's red light district, and in 1995 he rose to prominence as a president of the Hanover chapter of the Bones Motorcycle Club. Let's have a look at how did this journey shape his destiny. In 1999, Frank joined the Hells Angels and became a powerful leader in Hanover, Germany. His chapter grew in wealth and influence, making Frank a respected figure in the criminal world. However, his reign was short-lived. In 2000, he faced arrest for trying to set up brothels in Hamburg. He was found guilty of a violent crime and spent 3 tough years in prison. But Frank didn't let this setback break him. After his release, he focused on expanding the Hells Angels in Hanover and throughout Germany. He was praised by the media for bringing peace to the once chaotic Steindorfertal, a neighborhood known for its violent clashes between Albanian, Russian, and Turkish gangs. But did you know that Frank Armin Hanebuth had a different side too? Yes, you heard it right. Newspapers like Hannoversche Allgemeine Zeitung and the New Press revealed his sophistication and respectability. Through his attorney, Getz Werner von Fromberg, Frank built connections with political and business elites in Hanover. But then, on May 24, 2012, a raid by the State Criminal Police Office of Lower Saxony and GSG 9 shook the underworld. What happened next? The investigation into alleged contract killings ordered by Hanebuth was dropped due to lack of evidence, leaving behind an air of mystery. After the raid, he sought refuge in Mallorca, where he assumed the role of the president of the local Hells Angels chapter. But his sanctuary would be short-lived. On July 23, 2013, he was arrested in Mallorca, facing a multitude of charges. As the man in charge of the Hells Angels operations in Spain, he and his fellow club members were accused of forming a criminal organization, promoting illegal prostitution, drug trafficking, and money laundering. Following his arrest, he spent 4 weeks in solitary confinement before being remanded in normal custody in September 2013. In October of the same year, he was transferred to Madrid along with 17 other suspects. His confinement continued in the high-security wing of a prison in El Puerto in Santa Maria, where he awaited his trial. Throughout his tumultuous journey, he defied the odds. In July 2015, 2 years after his initial arrest, he was released from custody on a bail amounting to 60,000 euros. However, his freedom came with strict conditions, requiring him to appear at the police station once a week. But here's the twist. In July 2017, amidst the ongoing legal proceedings, Hanebuth found solace in the union of marriage. Can you believe it? He married his longtime girlfriend, Anna Sarah Naumann, in a ceremony held in Bissendorf near Hanover, making a personal triumph amidst the turmoil. After a lengthy legal battle, his trial in Spain on charges of membership in a criminal organization finally began in January 2023. And let me tell you, he was the only defendant who used his right to a final statement before the trial was adjourned Friday evening, and he used it to insist that his organization was democratic. We are not a criminal organization. We are the only biker club in the world that is based on a democratic structure. That means one person, one vote, he said. He denied that there was a president of the group at a national or international level, claiming that each chapter is independent. His lawyer had previously requested the court during the closing arguments to acquit Hanebuth. But Spanish prosecutors are asking the judge overseeing the trial to fine him 4.2 million euros for the money laundering charge. The trial is expected to last several weeks. Prosecutors are seeking a 13-year prison sentence for him, as they consider him a key individual in the scheme that moved his group from Hanover to Mallorca after pressure in Germany increased. Let's step into the shadows of the feared Mongols biker club, where an enigmatic leader holds all the cards and calls all the shots. Shrouded in mystery, this figure holds sway with an iron fist and strikes fear into the hearts of all. Who is the cunning puppeteer pulling the strings of the Brotherhood's might? Scott Jr Erikson is the most fearsome Mongol leader ever. In the year 1980, Scott Jr Erikson became a member of the Mongol motorcycle gang. He served as president of the National Club 4 times and saw it expand from a few hundred members in California to thousands of members all over the world. Jr prioritized the Mongols over everything else, demonstrating that the Mongols are more than simply a motorcycle club, they are a brotherhood, which is a large part of the reason the club has become as well known as it is today, a brotherhood for which he had been willing to lay down his life for 30 years. A friend and Jr went fishing at the lake in 1974 when he was very young. A large man with a lengthy beard and hair rode up on a motorcycle and parked it near the lake while they were there. As they watched the rider dismount and light up, they saw that guy was wearing a vest with a Mongols motorcycle club patch. Even though the man was only there for about 10 minutes, the impression he left on 14-year-old Jr, who was there to see it, remained with him forever. Do you know what he did next with his thought? He began daydreaming about owning a Harley-Davidson motorcycle after picking up Easy Rider magazine and reading them religiously. At the age of 18 in 1978, Jr spent $3,400 on a Harley-Davidson Superglide. Not long after arriving in California, he began to hear reports of a bloody conflict between 2 of the largest motorcycle clubs, the Hells Angels and the Mongols, over the state's territory. Jr began interacting with other club members as time went on. Jr joined the Mongols that day and began participating in weekend riots with them. After a few months, he was invited to the clubhouse of the Mongols' San Diego chapter, where he was formally introduced to the chapter's members and president. Jr.'s personality and demeanor changed for the worse the day he joined the gang. His brothers had given him a Smith & Wesson .38 Special as an initiation present, and he had grown his hair and beard long. Jr had no fear and thought that he was invincible when he first joined the Mongol Motorcycle Club. But he quickly learned otherwise when 3 of his brothers were killed in the first year. 2 years later, Jr and his brothers got into a fight at a pub with a member of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, and Jr wound up shooting and killing the Hells Angel. Local publications blamed the Mongols Motorcycle Club for the shooting, and the police went on a manhunt for the gang's members when the incident gained widespread media attention. After hearing that 3 of his brothers had been arrested and charged with first-degree murder and that the police had issued a warrant for his arrest, Jr hastily got out of town, transferred to a Mongol chapter in Tulsa, changed his name, and hid in Oklahoma for 6 months with the help of his Mongol brothers. Jr.'s arrest didn't come long after. In 1986, at the age of 26, Jr was paroled out of prison. He was happy to be out of prison, but he was unhappy with the conditions of his parole, which stated that he was not to have any contact with any member of the Mongols Motorcycle Club for 1 year, and if he did, he would be sent back to prison. Unwilling to turn around to comply with his parole, Jr got a lawful job, but the day he was released, he reconnected with his brothers and almost immediately became the vice president of the Mongols San Diego chapter. A year later, he was asked to become the Mongols' national president, making him the youngest national president in the club's history. As time went on, Jr became increasingly devoted to the Mongols, to the detriment of nearly all of his other connections. In 1998, Jr and one of his club brothers were out at a pub when they were attacked by a man wielding a knife. To defend themselves, Jr smashed a glass over the assailant's head, knocking him out. Jr and his brother thought the incident was over, so they rode off on their motorcycles. However, the man decided to press charges, and a warrant was issued for Jr.'s arrest a few days later. When he was taken into custody, Jr tried to explain that he had acted in self-defense, but the police officers didn't seem to care. After a favorable judgment was overturned and Jr.'s return to jail was ordered, the parole officer found that he had breached his parole. Jr became a folk hero in the Golden State because he tirelessly fought for the rights of Mongols everywhere. The FBI has long been looking into the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club because of its reputation for engaging in illegal activity. While it is difficult to categorically list the top most feared Hells Angels members or leaders, a number of people have become well known over time. It's crucial to remember that the Hells Angels organization has numerous chapters throughout the world, and that depending on their locale, different members may have different influences and reputations. In this video, we'll discuss the top 5 Hells Angels that the FBI has ever feared. Let's start with number 5. Maurice "Mom" Boucher, the man whose name, according to legends, inspires fear in the hearts of FBI agents. Even the most seasoned agents reportedly felt shivers go down their spines when they saw Boucher, who had an intimidating aura and an infamous reputation as the leader of the Hells Angels branch in Montreal. Mom Boucher and his gang of motorcycle-riding misfits must have made the FBI, which is renowned for taking on global crime syndicates and combating terrorists, shudder. According to legend, Boucher's illegal schemes were so daring and his influence so great that the FBI set up entire task squads to monitor him. In their top-secret offices, they would huddle around and stare at photos of Boucher, his hulking build and handlebar mustache instilling fear in their clerical hearts. But let's step back from the land of legends and get back to the actual world. Although Boucher was a well-known member of the Hells Angels and engaged in criminal activity, it's safe to conclude that the FBI had more important things on its plate. Boucher may have been under surveillance, but it's exceedingly improbable that he was the most dreaded target in their sights. Therefore, even the most imaginative storyteller would find it difficult to imagine Mom Boucher as the most FBI-feared man. Despite the fact that he may have developed a reputation among biker communities, the FBI's attention was diverted to more important issues. Thus, Boucher and his antics were reduced to the status of a colorful footnote in the annals of criminal history. George Christie, who is ranked number 4, is the man who supposedly made FBI officers shudder just by his very presence. Christie allegedly sent shockwaves through the FBI's ranks with his flowing silver hair and a motorcycle-riding swagger that could make even the toughest agent tremble. They claim that FBI agents would rush for their case files and drop their donuts when his name was mentioned, because they feared the wrath of this leather-clad legend. According to legend, Christie had a special ability to confuse the FBI with his superb organizing skills. Agents of the FBI would be perplexed since he would organize covert operations from his biker lair. They would huddle in their desks and discuss how this motorbike fanatic kept outsmarting them while gazing at his picture on the wall. But let's leave fantasy behind and return to the real world. Even though Christie was a prominent member of the Hells Angels and had his share of legal troubles, it's safe to conclude that the FBI was more focused on other, more urgent issues. They were occupied tackling espionage, global criminal networks, and other genuine dangers to national security. Therefore, even the most creative comic would find it difficult to create the wonderful exaggeration that George Christie was the most FBI-feared man, despite the fact that he may have developed a reputation among biker circles. The FBI was engaged in more significant conflicts, so Christie and his exploits in a leather cloak were relegated to myth and legend. Next up is number 3, Mark "Papa" Guardado, the man who allegedly caused FBI officers' shiny shoes to shudder. Papa Guardado was rumored to be the stuff of FBI nightmares, with his intimidating presence and a reputation that reputedly struck dread into the hearts of even the most seasoned investigators. Agents would cluster in their poorly lit offices, holding onto their credentials tenaciously, seeking to avoid coming into contact with this intimidating individual. According to legend, Guardado had a supernatural ability to avoid FBI observation. Agents would be left perplexed as he would vanish into thin air, calling into question their education. They would congregate in their personal hiding places, huddle around his image on the wall, and ponder how this motorcycle-riding outlaw could outwit them at every turn. But let's leave the land of fairy tales and head back to the real world. Guardado probably played a big role in the Hells Angels and engaged in some illegal activity, but it's safe to conclude that the FBI faced more formidable foes. They were occupied battling drug cartels, organized crime groups, and other genuine threats that needed their full attention. So, even though Papi Guardado may have developed a reputation among bikers, to claim that he was the most FBI-feared figure is a ridiculous exaggeration that would be difficult for even the most creative storyteller to construct. Papa Guardado and his leather-clad exploits were left to exist in the world of fiction and folklore, since the FBI had more important problems to take care of. Stepping on to number 2, Maurice "Satan" Bernardo. who according to legend was the man whose nickname alone gave FBI investigators shivers. Satan Bernardo apparently had the FBI shaking in their suits due to his evil reputation and diabolical name. Fearing that his demonic presence might taint their investigation files, agents would murmur his name in hushed tones. Satan Bernardo allegedly possessed supernatural abilities that enabled him to outsmart the FBI at every turn. Agents would look at him in bewilderment as he conjured up plans from the depths of biker hell. They would gather in pitch-black spaces with crucifixes in hand and discuss how this demonic presence kept eluding them. But let's leave folklore behind and head back to the real world. As a Hells Angel, Satan Bernardo may have engaged in his fair share of criminal activity, but it's safe to say that the FBI faced more formidable foes. They were occupied fighting off global crime gangs, terrorist groups, and other present-day dangers. Therefore, even the most creative comic would find it difficult to imagine Satan Bernardo as the most FBI-feared man, despite the fact that he may have developed a terrifying reputation among biker groups. Satan Bernardo and his demonic antics were left to exist in the realms of fiction and folklore, since the FBI had more important things to deal with. Sonny Barger takes the #1 position. According to folklore, Sonny Barger, a legendary member of the Hells Angels motorcycle club, has earned a reputation that makes the FBI nervous. Barger has a lengthy history of being connected to the club's inner workings because of his wild beard and imposing demeanor. However, to assert that he is the most FBI-feared individual is akin to saying that a bulldog is the most feared animal in a petting zoo. Barger undoubtedly attracted the attention of law enforcement organizations, notably the FBI, with his captivating demeanor and outspoken attitude. He became a representation of the Hells Angels, a man whose very name could chill the spines of his foes. However, it might be a slight exaggeration to claim that the FBI spent its evenings tossing and turning in fear of Sonny Barger. Barger did engage in illegal activity and did time in prison, but let's not forget that police departments have faced far more serious dangers than a bunch of bikers revving their motors. The FBI focuses its efforts on battling organized crime, terrorism, and other significant threats to national security. Sonny Barger may have been a formidable influence within the Hells Angels, but to say that he was the most FBI-feared man is an exaggeration that even the most imaginative of writers would find difficult to construct. Law enforcement has had to contend with problems much bigger than a bunch of leather-clad bikers speeding down the roadways. Sonny Barger, Maurice Montboucher, George Christie, and Maurice Satan Bernardo, to name a few, have all made an indelible stamp on Hells Angels history. While their fame may have given rise to exaggerated stories of intimidation and fear, it's crucial to maintain perspective. The FBI's concerns go far beyond a bunch of leather-clad motorcyclists. Therefore, let's enjoy the vivid mythology surrounding these people while also keeping in mind that the FBI's formidable adversaries are not limited to motorbike fanatics, but also include multinational crime syndicates and risks to